There's the biggest part for record companies is the paid subscriptions. That is the most important streaming out of anybody. All those services, because they pay royalties on digital transmissions of sound recordings. So for Spotify, record labels are making money on Spotify, not just for artist royalties, but there's a performance right as set forth in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Which includes all the services, but there's also, for publishing, there's 2 publishing royalties in an interactive digital stream. So you have the mechanical right, you have the mechanical royalties, and you have the public performance royalties. Whereas on Spotify, Pandora, which is ad-supported, and the radio, like Sirius XM, there's only public performance, which, as you know, is ASCAP and BMI. So the healthy ecosystem is this streaming income. It has replaced sales worldwide. So like Pierre said, 75% of record sales in America are now streaming. Worldwide, it's 62%. And by 2024, it should be 80%. So it's really been a good thing for the music business overall.
I think there's a lot of artists who are in old deals that are trying to figure out the best way forward now that album sales are down, physical sales are down, and Dina and I talk about this a lot, and the rest of her firm, just how do you take an old deal and make it work in today's streaming model? So I think there's a lot of change happening in the new contracts that are being put forward. In electronic music, we saw it very early that people weren't consuming albums. They were only wanting one single at a time. So for the legal side of it, how do you figure out how to make a deal that makes sense and the label is still investing in the artist? They're still building on a career and not just on a song. So I think it's going to be even more interesting in the next year or two what kind of deals can come into play if they're not going after merchandise rights and they're not going after touring rights anymore, just what those new deals will look like.
Are you guys seeing different deals for singles versus albums now with the streaming?
Somewhat. It all depends the genre of music. We're very genre music based. So like where Stephanie, her area of expertise is in dance music, and a lot of those deals are usually one-offs, like master acquisition deals, like some of these labels and Juna Beats and people like that. And then you have big, exclusive artist rights agreements, like what you would do for a mainstream artist like Diplo or Skrillex. It's the same thing. It's one album with 6 options or a variation of that. But the way that the music is released is very different, which Stephanie and I, we talk about all the time, we struggle with, because usually it's the way it was, is you release an album. You release one single, and then you gear up for the album release. That's not the way we're doing it now.
No. That's where music goes to die, unless you're Beyonce. Yeah. There's like the 1 or 2, not even 2% of artists can take that risk of just putting 12 songs out all at once, because you're basically sending 10 of them to their death unless you're a huge pop star. If you're an artist that's developing and you decide I want to put out 20 songs, the chances of a streaming service knowing which one to put in a playlist if they even like it, it just it doesn't work anymore. For established big acts, you can do it, but we switched most of our clients over to everything leads into a body of work. Singles. It's a different, we all have to be pretty flexible based on the genre that you work in and the way that people consume music. But it's definitely changed a lot in the last 2 years.
Have you guys seen the streaming economy creating new opportunities for your clients and obviously creating some new areas of income, new areas of revenue that you guys can discuss?
Well, one of the things that I like to do is just paint a picture of numbers, because we talk a lot about theory, but then when you really drill it down to what is the actual number, it's like a sleep number. So I have a little cheat sheet that I share, especially with new artists coming in. So let me run through this real quick. 1 million streams on YouTube converts to $690. 1 million streams on Spotify, $4,370. 1 million streams on Apple Music, $7,350. 1 million streams on Tidal, $12,500, and 1 million streams on Amazon Music, $4,020. So when you start hearing about millions of streams, and that's what gross is, that's not even getting into what the splits are from that amount of money to quantify that. So Pierre, to answer your question, for us, what we see, and I think Cheryl and I could probably attest to this, you know, it's just like the Little Nas and the Billy Ray Cyrus thing, right? Big record, blows up, one record, which normally probably, you know, 10 years ago, that would have never come to market that way.
What's the song my kid's been singing?
Yeah, Old Town Road.
Yes.
Remixed by everybody in the world who is who can sing, by the way. So I don't know so much about saying it creates new revenue streams. I think what it can do at times is it can elevate exposure, which is obviously a double-edged sword.
I would just say in my world, it's changed completely because like you had the process of releasing singles and then an album. When it comes to touring, you weren't seeing artists, you know, back in the day, put out one song, see success, and go on a tour and sell a bunch of tickets. And now with kids and you know, they hear something, they love it, they become an instant fan. They're buying a ticket to that show more than likely. So you see artists, you know, when you maybe don't pertain it back to a revenue stream, you might probably should call it that. But their touring careers are able to start earlier because of that, because it gives them that
Well,
opportunity.
let me put it in perspective, okay? The biggest market trigger in the U.S. is terrestrial radio. Lou, how much money does that pay our artists? Jack
Nothing.
shit. Okay? Jack shit. But 100 million people a day listen to pop radio. 100 million people a day. It is the biggest market trigger in the U.S. The second biggest market trigger is touring, and a formidable market trigger on its way up is interactive digital streaming. And interactive digital streaming is the holy grail right now of the music business as far as the marketing and promotion of how we have a platform to jump off as. And we also get to make money in it, which is unlike terrestrial radio. So the difference between your client having a hit at pop music in America is the difference between them playing the Troubadour and the Forum.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the reality of it. And let me just give you this generality.
Analogy.
If we're talking,
I'm going to steal that one, by the way.
if we're talking about numbers, okay, generally, okay, for paid subscriptions, for $10 that comes in, because now we don't talk about how much royalties per play. We talk about net revenue. So that's another big thing that's changed, because we used to talk about royalties and per play, what are we getting per album sale? We don't talk about that anymore. The way it works now in the music business is we talk about net revenue when it comes to record sales. So for net revenue, if you have a $10 that comes in, right off the top, 30% goes to the service. Right off the top, goes to Apple or Spotify or whatever. Then $1.20 gets split up between the music publishers, the songwriters, and the PROs, and we're going to see that go up because of the implementation of the Music Modernization Act. It doesn't take effect until January 1, 2021, but that number will go up because of that, but not too much. So that's $1.20 right now. And then $5.75 goes to the label. That's a lot of money. Now, if you own the copyright, which some of our clients do, then there's a net share of revenue between the label and the artist, upwards to 50-50, okay? But everything, all the producers and the songwriters, like if you negotiate, the songwriters come off the top, great. Normally, they come out of the artist's share of net revenue. If you're a royalty deal, right, if the label owns the master, they're receiving 75 to 80% of that $5.75 just for them, and then the artist is getting paid a royalty based upon how it's calculated in the agreement.